I used to swear a laminator could save your soul. For the longest time, I genuinely believed that if you could just get the systems right, if you could just organize the chaos of a human life into neat, manageable categories, then nothing could ever truly hurt you. Slap a chore chart on the fridge, color Tuesdays ballet pink for Lily's lessons, neon the soccer Saturdays for Owen, and the universe, in all its sprawling, messy glory, would stay inside the lines you'd drawn for it. That was my religion. That was the gospel according to Claire. I believed that for 14 straight years, a decade and a half of crisp edges and predictable hues. Until Naomi rang the bell on a perfectly scheduled, perfectly beige Thursday afternoon. In that moment, with the scent of coming rain in the air and her standing on my porch like a memory I'd forgotten I had, every Sharpie hue I'd taped to my life, every carefully constructed pillar of my organized world, began to run together in one gorgeous, ugly, terrifying swirl. Here's what the mommy and me crowd, with their pristine planners and matching athleisure, never mentions over their decaf lattes: if you schedule joy in 15-minute blocks, if you relegate passion to a to-do list, you'll eventually wake up married to a stranger. You'll find yourself booking your own kids through a shared family calendar and an assistant, just to have a conversation. You'll stand there, admiring a refrigerator that looks like Pantone's greatest hits, a mosaic of obligations and appointments, while your heart feels like a piece of paper left out in the rain, soggy, illegible, its words all washed away. I built that fridge. I curated that marriage. I designed that life, brick by color-coded brick. And I almost signed the rest of my days away, ticking off the boxes, before I finally had to admit that the calendar, my beautiful, orderly calendar, was lying louder and more convincingly than I ever had. It promised peace, but it delivered a quiet, suffocating numbness. The perfect prison. My name is Claire. I'm 42 years old, treasurer of the Homeowners Association, a minivan parallel parking champion on the first try, and the kind of person who alphabetizes her soup cans, not just by type, but by brand. From the street, my house smiles like a page from a home and garden catalog. The hydrangeas are trimmed into perfect spheres, like oversized golf balls. The welcome mat is centered to the inch. There are 0 fingerprints on the brushed steel of the front door handle. It's a portrait of serene, domestic success. Inside, the only riot is the color-coded grid stuck to the freezer with magnets so strong they could hold up the world. Red for Daniel's work trips, which seem to be getting more frequent. Blue for my book club, where we talked more about wine than novels. Purple for Lily's orthodontist appointments. Yellow for Owen's robotics club. On paper, that grid screams, winning. It's a testament to a life fully lived, fully managed. But in the quiet moments, in the dead of night, I knew it was the spreadsheet that had buried me alive. Every dawn, the alarm is a gentle chime, not a buzz. I glide downstairs at 5:45 a.m., start the single origin coffee, and perform my morning ritual. I take yesterday's magnets, the completed tasks, the fulfilled obligations, and flick them into the done column on the far side of the grid. It's a meditative act, like skimming leaves from the surface of a pool. These are tiny acts of control that promise huge returns, assuring me that everything is on track. Daniel comes down, already checking his phone, and pecks my cheek. "You're amazing, babe," he says, the words a familiar, smooth stone worn down by repetition. Then his eyes are back on CNBC while I pack gluten-free, sugar-free, fun-free snacks into geometric, bento-style boxes for the kids. He sees the efficiency. The kids see the snacks. Nobody sees the part where I stand in the silent kitchen, staring at all those empty squares still marching toward me on the calendar, the future, neatly boxed and waiting. They are squares I keep recoloring in brighter and brighter shades because I've completely forgotten how to paint anything original. I used to paint. Not just doodle, but really paint. Oils. Canvases big enough to trip on, that took up half the room. I used colors that yelled and whispered and argued with each other. My senior year of college, I won a juried show with a piece that was all angry violets and desperate yellows. The prize was a 3-month residency in Florence. I spent 7 giddy, sleepless days after the announcement, just dreaming of a life of paint-splattered poverty, of ancient light and the smell of turpentine. Then life, as it does, showed up with an invoice. Student loans, Daniel's incredible job offer in a city 3 states away, a U-Haul, a diamond ring. He was practical, my Daniel. He was the sturdy, reliable oak to my wild, unpredictable vine. I packed the brushes and the rolled-up canvases last, promising myself and him that they'd fit around the edges of our new life. That was 20 years ago. The box is still in the garage, sealed with tape that has yellowed with age. The return. Enter Naomi. Age 8, she moved onto my street, a whirlwind of untamed energy. She was always barefoot, with a galaxy of freckles across her nose, a skateboard tucked under one arm, and once, a garter snake she'd caught, which she kept in a pickle jar. She was the one who taught me how to whistle loud enough to hail a cab using just a blade of grass. She was the one who convinced me to sneak into the community pool after dark, the water feeling like silk under the moonlight. She was the one I kissed, clumsily and full of a confusing, terrifying thrill, behind a camellia bush when we were 15. We lost touch after college. My life went one way: marriage, mortgage, motherhood. Hers went everywhere else. Her postcards, which arrived intermittently and without a return address, came from places without zip codes. Belize, Lisbon, a crab boat in the Bering Sea. They were filled with sketches and short, cryptic sentences that felt like poems. I would mail my annual Christmas letters, with their glossy photos of my smiling, well-dressed family, to her mom's house and act like I wasn't consumed with a jealousy so sharp it felt like a physical ache. And then she rolls up on a Thursday that smells like rain, driving a dented, rust-colored Jeep with a bumper sticker that shouts, "Art or Bust." Her hair is shorter than I remember, threaded with strands of premature silver, but her grin is pure recess rebellion. It's the same grin that dared me to climb the water tower all those years ago. She hops onto my perfectly manicured porch holding 2 iced coffees, one for her, one for me, and a portfolio as big as my microwave. "Claire Bear," she says, and the nickname, unused for 2 decades, cracks something in my ribs. "I'm teaching a 6-week workshop at the community center. Figured you might want to doodle." Every scheduled fiber of my being screams that I should say no. That my Tuesdays are for spreadsheets and errands. But I don't. I grab the coffee, pretend the calendar isn't shrieking its silent, tyrannical demands behind me, and let her in. We sit at the kitchen island, her battered portfolio a stark contrast to my gleaming granite countertops. She flips it open, and my breath catches. There are charcoal faces that seem to breathe on the page, ink drawings of cities I've never seen, and a self-portrait done in furious, unapologetic reds and oranges. I can smell the faint, intoxicating aroma of turpentine, and something electric rolls up inside me like a garage door I'd forgotten was even there. Just then, Owen wanders in. "Mom, do we have any more yellow markers?" The robotic schedule changed. Before I can direct him to the meticulously organized art supply drawer, Naomi plucks a brilliant Prismacolor from a canvas bag at her feet. It's a shade of pure, undiluted sunshine. "Keep it, kid," she says, her eyes twinkling. "Yellow's for quitters pretending to be happy. This one's for actual sunshine." Owen blinks, then breaks into a wide grin, pockets the marker, and scampers off. And I want to cry, right there, for reasons that are too big and too messy to ever fit inside a square on my refrigerator. The cracks Naomi signs on for 6 weeks at the community center, and my life tilts on its axis. Every Tuesday afternoon at 3:05, her Jeep appears. She doesn't knock. She just walks in, drops her bag on the floor, and says, "Walk with me." We circle the manicured, repetitive landscape of my neighborhood, but with her, it looks different. She points out the negative space between the oak tree branches, the way the late afternoon sun turns a beige garage door into a canvas of gold and lavender. We talk for hours, yakking about whether acrylics are just oil paints with commitment issues, about the merits of different kinds of charcoal. She tells me about a bad breakup in Portland, a gallery rejection that stung, a jellyfish scar on her leg from a misadventure in Thailand. And I, in turn, hear myself telling her things I haven't even admitted to myself. I tell her about Lily's crippling panic attacks before swim meets, about the lonely, rhythmic hiss of Daniel's CPAP machine in the dark, about the way I find myself alphabetizing the cumin and coriander in the spice rack when it feels like I can't breathe. She doesn't offer solutions or platitudes. She just listens and then laughs, a sound like wind chimes in a storm. Still running from silence, Claire Bear, she asks gently. I don't answer, because the truth is, I'm running from the ghost of the girl who used to fill that silence with riotous color. One afternoon, our walk ends in my garage. It's the one place in the house I haven't organized into submission. Dusty canvases lean against the wall like guilty secrets. Old furniture is draped in white sheets, like ghosts of a life I could have lived. Naomi, unerring as a compass, walks right to the stack of canvases. She lifts a sheet, revealing the half-finished self-portrait I abandoned the week Daniel proposed. The eyes of my 22-year-old self glare back at me, arrogant, confident, and utterly terrified all at once. The background was meant to be Florence, but it's just a blank, primed void. You should finish it, she whispers, her voice soft but insistent. A wave of panic washes over me. I can't. I have dinner guests coming. The caterer will be here any minute, I lie, the excuse sounding flimsy even to my own ears. She just shrugs, but as she turns to leave, her fingers linger on my wrist for 2 seconds too long. The touch is lighter than a post-it note, but it feels like it yanks something fundamental loose inside me, something I can no longer contain in a box. A summer storm barges in on a Friday night while Daniel is in Chicago for a conference. Lily is at a sleepover, and Owen is glued to a Minecraft server, headphones on, lost in a world of digital blocks. The house is quiet, and the rain begins to lash against the windows. Then, headlights sweep across the living room wall. It's Naomi, holding a bag of Thai takeout and a bottle of Tempranillo. Figured you could use some company, she says, shaking the rain from her hair. We eat cross-legged on the living room rug, a flagrant violation of my "no food outside the kitchen" rule, because I don't want to wreck the kitchen's perfect feng shui. The power flickers, dies, then comes back on before dying again for good. We light candles, and the room is transformed, soft and intimate. She starts talking about a new series she's planning, portraits of women mid-laugh, mid-sob, mid-life. I want raw, she says, her eyes reflecting the candle flame. I want to capture that exact second you realize the script you've been memorizing your whole life doesn't actually fit your mouth anymore. Thunder cracks, a deep, resonant boom that shakes the house. The wine has made me brave, and my heart is thrashing against my ribs like a trapped bird. I paint whole murals in my head every single night, I blurt out, the words spilling out of me in a torrent. Indigo, cadmium red, giant, furious swaths of color. I build entire worlds. Then the morning comes, and the calendar is there, and it just eats them. My voice breaks on the last word, and a tear I didn't know was coming slides down my cheek. Naomi says nothing. She just reaches out and gently wipes a smudge of soy sauce from the corner of my lip with her thumb. The room shrinks to the inch of space between our knees. The storm outside and the storm inside me feel like the same thing. I'm terrified, I whisper, that I've already lived my best day. That it's behind me. She cups my face in her hands, her palms warm and calloused. Claire, she says, her voice a low anchor in the chaos. What if your best day is a color you haven't even mixed yet? And then we kiss. It's soft at first, questioning, then it becomes desperate, like we've both been holding our breath underwater for decades and have finally broken the surface. The candles gutter and dance, casting flickering shadows on the walls. Hail begins to drum against the windows, a frantic, percussive beat. In the kitchen, I hear a clatter, the storm vibrations have shaken the refrigerator, and I can picture the magnets, my tiny, colorful handcuffs, skittering across the floor, finally snapping free. When we part, she rests her forehead against mine. I can feel her breath on my lips. I didn't just come back for the workshop, she says, her voice thick with emotion. I came back for you. My answer is another kiss, hungrier this time, because for the first time in 14 years, I am utterly, ravenously starving, and nobody is rationing me. The next morning, a text message jolts me from a restless sleep. Daniel's flight landed early. Panic, cold and sharp, floods my system. I spend the next hour scrubbing the living room rug at dawn, erasing every trace of the night before, the wine stem prints, the ghost of Naomi's citrus shampoo scent in the air. I find the Thai containers and bury them at the bottom of the outside recycling bin like they're evidence of a crime. He walks in, smelling of airport coffee and holding a bottle of duty-free perfume for me. He kisses my cheek, the same automatic peck as always. Why are all the calendar magnets on the floor? He asks, nudging one with his shoe. The storm must have shaken the door pretty hard last night, I say, my voice steady, practiced. I blame the storm. He nods, trusting, completely unsuspecting, and the ease of his belief feels like a sharp skewer to my lungs. That night, I lie in bed beside the rhythmic, mechanical hiss of his CPAP machine and imagine the crisp white sheet is a canvas. I imagine his breath is the sound of waves on a distant shore I still can't bring myself to paint. The performance continues. Over breakfast, Owen, ever observant, asks, "Mom, why are your eyes all red?" "Allergies, sweetie," I say, turning to flip a pancake. Lily needs help finding her sheet music for band practice. Daniel needs his navy blazer ironed for a client meeting. I glide through the tasks like a Roomba, efficient, cordless, and completely empty inside. My phone buzzes on the counter. It's Naomi. "Meet me at the park?" "The one with the willow trees." My thumb hovers over the screen. I delete the message. Then I go into my deleted items and retrieve it. Then I delete it again. The calendar, which I had painstakingly reassembled on the fridge, seems to mock me. Same colors, same obligations, same lies. Only now, the neat little squares don't look like a plan for success. They look like prison bars tinted in shades of cotton candy pink and baby blue. The choice the week blurs into a montage of domestic duties and silent screaming. Naomi gives me space, but her absence is a physical presence in my house, weighing more than her presence ever did. It's in the empty passenger seat of my minivan, in the silent afternoons, in the untouched corner of the garage. Daniel, in an effort to reconnect, books a last-minute beach rental for the weekend. "We need some family time," he says, and it sounds like a sentence. While he's in the driveway, expertly loading the cooler into the SUV like a game of Tetris, I tell him I forgot my sunglasses. And then I sprint. I run the 6 blocks to the community center, my lungs burning. The classroom door is propped open. The familiar, sacred smell of turpentine and rain-soaked earth hits me. She's there, alone, scrubbing brushes at a large basin sink, her back to me. She turns, and her eyes are wary, guarded. "I can't do this dance, Claire," she says, her voice quiet but firm. "This back and forth. Either you want to paint, or you don't. Either you're in this, or you're not. I can't be a phase." I open my mouth to say something, anything, but no words come out. It's just a void. Finally, I manage a choked whisper, "I don't know how to be the woman who chooses herself." She offers a small, sad smile. "You don't have to know everything at once," she says. "Start with one brushstroke. The rest follows." That night, after everyone is asleep, I go to the garage. The air is cool and smells of dust and gasoline. I pull the sheet off the old self-portrait. I stare at the face of the girl I used to be, the girl who was both fearless and terrified. I stare at the blank space where her future was supposed to be. I open the old wooden box. The brushes are stiff, the tubes of paint are hard, but some are still viable. I squeeze out paint onto a dusty palette, ultramarine, alizarin crimson, titanium white. Colors no Sharpie could ever dream of being. My hand shakes as I pick up a brush. The first stroke feels like signing a permission slip I wrote for myself in the 3rd grade, a promise to be brave. The second stroke feels like screaming after years of holding my breath. By the third, I'm crying, hot tears mixing with the slick, buttery paint. I'm painting over the girl I was, not to erase her, but to carve out whoever is still living underneath all the layers of duty and expectation. Somewhere in the house, I hear Daniel call my name, a muffled, "Good night, hon." I don't answer. For the first time in 20 years, I'm too busy answering myself. If any part of this story feels like you're looking through your own kitchen window, if you've ever felt trapped by the beautiful life you've built, tell me, what color would you paint the box you've labeled, maybe later? Drop it in the comments below. I promise I read every single one while the oil's dry. I honestly don't know how this story ends. I have no map for this new territory. Maybe I stay, and learn to paint within the life I have. Maybe I leave, and build a new one from scratch. Maybe this canvas stays half-finished in my garage forever, a monument to a single act of rebellion. The future isn't a neat grid anymore, it's a terrifying, exhilarating blank. But the calendar is off the fridge for now. The magnets are rattling together in a junk drawer, like bingo balls waiting for someone to call out a whole new set of numbers. Here's what I do know: life expands or shrinks to fit the borders we give it. For years, my borders were sharp, laminated, and unforgiving. I'm finally brave enough to spill outside the lines. If you're watching this from inside your own neat, color-coded boxes, consider this your permission slip. Go ahead and smear the whole page. The mess, I'm learning, is where the masterpiece actually begins.